Welcome to the Legal Power Hour, where we jam 60 minutes of thought-provoking discussion into a 30-minute show designed to inform, awaken, and protect our fellow American citizens. I am your co-host, Tom Scott, along with my co-host, Sarah Nahidi, and today we are absolutely delighted to have on our show Dr. Mario Jimenez of Kendall Regional Hospital in Miami, Florida, who's a champion of the family court system, overhauling the family court system, I should say. He's done a lot of work in Florida, nationwide. He's got a very large network, and he's a great person. I've spoken to him on the phone many times. I consider him a friend. And he's also got an interesting background, kind of like you have an engineering degree, correct?
Yes, I do. Electrical engineering.
I
did my bachelor's in science at Florida International University, and I worked for over 12 years. And then I saved enough money to complete my dream of becoming a medical doctor.
Oh, okay. So I didn't know that. So you were actually you had actually intended to become a doctor for quite some time then.
Yes, actually, the reason that I became a doctor was that my dad suffered 4 heart attacks, and he actually required heart transplant. And one day when I was at the hospital, let me back up. We came to the United States when I was in my teens. I'm the oldest of six children. So I basically, I had to take a lot of responsibility as a youth because my dad suffered these heart attacks. And I remember one day I was at a hospital, Jackson Memorial actually. And my dad was basically, he had like 15% of his heart actually working. And in very delicate condition. I was praying, and as I was praying, I remember I closed my eyes and I saw a doctor approaching me. And when I see his face, and I see it was me, I said, Lord, what is this? At that point, I in my heart, I felt that it was a calling for me to become a doctor so that other children wouldn't have to suffer what we were suffering, that my dad, he was only 45 years old.
Yeah.
And that was when I was in my teens. I worked really hard. I actually graduated cum laude as an electrical engineer. I also, when I did my residency, I was the top medical doctor in my field. And I remember one day when I was at Jackson Memorial, 20-something years later, and I was walking down the hall. And as I was walking, I looked on the side and I see an empty seat. And I remember 20-something years before, I was sitting at that seat. And I was exactly wearing the same coat, and I realized that my dream had come true. And I say this because a lot of times we might go through very difficult situations, and we got to see the right perspective. If God allows us to see something like this, it's because He wants to use us. And
right.
That's what actually something very similar is going on today with my children. As you know, I lost custody of my children just because I prayed with them. And to me, that was, I really couldn't believe that this was actually going on in the United States. And it opened my eyes to the huge problem that we have today in our legal system. Basically, the Constitution is gone. We have a group of so-called judges who are blatantly ignoring the Constitution and just destroying families, destroying America from within. And we got to stand up. This is, if we don't do something, I believe that our country will be destroyed. So this has become
you're echoing the same sentiments in our book. As you know, you've read our book, and we say the same thing truthfully. The Constitution is being used as a doormat by these elected officials, these judges, these prosecutors, these people in the system, and it is, I believe, it's sending our country down the toilet. Great empires like Rome, they destroyed themselves from within. And we're seeing the same thing here in the United States through our legal system. In fact, Jefferson, as you know, a big fan of Thomas Jefferson, like myself, he warned of this years ago with the judiciary, an encroaching thief over the night, gaining a little by day and a little by night until, we're all venal as impressive as the government from which we separated. So you're certainly tuned in, as we are. And, that's why we're doing what we're doing. We want to fix this problem. Now, I know you ran for state senate, right? You've told me you ran for state senate in Florida. Why? Why did you do that? Can you tell us why you decided to run for state senate?
Well, I did because as I started studying and get into the root cause of what's going on, I realized that we had lost the checks and balances that our forefathers put in place. Let me explain how that happened. Basically, we have allowed one branch of government to take over the whole government, the three branches, and this goes completely against what our forefathers told us. Let me just read something real quick. It says, "The accumulation of all powers, legislative, executive, and judiciary, in the same hands, whether of one, a few, or many, and whether hereditary, self-appointed, or elective, may justly be pronounced the very definition of tyranny." That's Federalist Papers, number 47.
Is that Madison? And that's Madison, I believe.
That's Madison. That's Madison. So what happened is that we let this oligarchy basically, I call the judicial system, now controls over 70% of the legislative branch. Just last year, we had controlling the presidency. It controls most of the governorship, governors in the states.
Right.
It controls the judicial system completely. So when we have a problem and we go, for instance, to our legislators, they have a conflict of interest. They're not going to go against their fellow attorneys, their fellow judges, because they will not be able to practice any longer.
Right.
So, so that brings me to the solution. What do we need to do? We need to stop complaining, sitting in our homes crying about the state of the nation, and we need to get involved. So I believe that I'm qualified. I love this country, and that I can do a much better job than many of the candidates that we have today who have a conflict of interest. And basically, and I can tell you this, Florida, for instance, Florida tells you specifically, it's called Article 2, Section 3 of the Florida Constitution. Says the following: branches of government. The powers of the state government shall be divided into legislative, executive, and judicial branches. No person belonging to one branch shall exercise any powers appertaining to either of the other branches unless specifically provided herein. And guess what? There is no provision for someone who belongs to the Florida bar who has, of course, a vested interest in the judicial system, practicing as an attorney, and at the same time defining and making the laws in our nation. So in our state, that is really the root cause of a lot of the problems that we see today. So I wanted to set an example, and I got almost 10% of the votes in my district, and I'm running again in 2019. Got one.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if many people know this, but you mentioned, like lawyers are running our Congress. I don't know if people know that overwhelmingly the vast majority of our Congress is lawyers. I believe it's like 2/3, 70%, just like you said. I don't know if our viewers know that. And the other thing I want to mention too to our viewers, which you just said, you've never run for office before, have you?
No, never.
And to get nearly 10% of the vote, that's noble. That's very commendable. We look at past candidates that have run in our country, and you look at Jill Stein, you look at Gary, of course, the Libertarian that just ran there, Gary Johnson, I believe. They got like 1%, 5%. So, to get 10% of the vote, obviously you had a very important message for your contingency, for your community, didn't you?
Oh yes, I believe so, and I did it with just over a little bit over $5,000. My opponent had $500,000. Sorry,
yeah.
Yes, $500,000, wow. And yeah. he got 50% of the votes. So I think that with the proper funding, I should be able to win. But it doesn't matter. It's not, to me. It's not about winning necessarily. It's about doing your best and never giving up. We cannot give up. This country, our children, depend on us fighting and not giving up. And let me just tell you something. Recently, there was a program in 60 Minutes, okay, where they interview 16 attorneys secretly, and 15 of the attorneys basically they gave information to someone, and basically they were trying to do money laundering in the United States, and these attorneys basically provided the information to this supposedly person that was going to do money laundering. But one of the attorneys basically, and they show in the documentary in 60 Minutes, says, look at what it says. It says they don't send the lawyers to jail because we run the country. We're still members of a privileged class in this country. We make the laws, and when we do so, we make them in a way that is advantageous to the lawyers. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's basically it. And
I'm feeling like I gotta speak up here. I mean,
yes, go ahead.
We're doing nothing but attacking lawyers, and as a lawyer myself, I agree with the fact that there's an inherent conflict of interest with people who are sitting in Congress and the House of Representatives and their lawyers. And originally, when the founding fathers were forming this country and how we were going to be different, lawyers were not allowed, and lawyers were prohibited from making the laws and being part of government. And I think that's where that's where the problem lies. But I also want to say that a lot of lawyers are part of the solution. Not every lawyer is bad.
Oh yes, I completely agree. So, but I was given basically what I consider is the root cause of the problem, and yes, we need lawyers to basically step up and speak the truth like you're doing, and we need to educate the people. So That's why I did it. Hopefully, we have a few million people watching this one day, and they'll understand what's actually going on in our nation. And what the solution is, we need regular people running for Congress, and we need representatives, legislators, congressmen, congresswomen, doing what our forefathers wanted us to do, which is get involved.
But one of the issues I see in this country is that there's such an apathy, such an indifference, and no interest to get involved in civic engagement and civic duty. How do we get people motivated to get involved, to speak up, to make a difference, and to participate?
Well, I can tell you that one of the reasons that I believe this is happening is that people have been crying for change, and no matter how hard they have tried to change it, they haven't done it. They haven't been able to do it. So there's a point in which you just give up. You just disconnect yourself from what's happening. And I can tell you, there's the extremes, like in the family courts, where for instance, I know some friends that they had the children removed for no valid reason. They were never found to have hurt their children, just on allegations, even though the allegations have proven to be false. Their children were removed from their lives, and it got to the point that they decided to take their lives. And what's really sad is that children, and I can give you some statistics, every 3 minutes in America today, a youth between the ages of 12 to 24 is attempted suicide. The number one reason for these suicides is what's happening in our courts today. They have been removed from their parents. And now, I'm going to tell you why this is happening. We have today incentives, monetary incentives called in Title 4D and Title 4E of the Social Security, which actually incentivize the removal of children from the parents. For every dollar, for instance, that a judge is able to get in child support from the parent, the state receives an extra dollar from the federal government. Now, it gets even worse with the Department of Children and Families through Title 4E. What they do is, when they have a child, when they remove a child and they put them in foster homes, for every dollar that the state spends in foster homes, they receive $3 from the federal government. Plus, they also receive financial incentives when they give the children on adoption. Actually, the money goes all the way, it could go all the way to $12,000 per child. And we have, you can visit our website, votefamily.us, and you have testimonies of attorneys actually that call this child trafficking in America. This is what it is, child trafficking. And what's really sad is that many of these children end up being involved in sexual trafficking. And we have an epidemic right now of sexual trafficking. Many of these children are coming from these destroyed homes, which is happening because our government is doing it. So,
yeah. And it's interesting you say that, Mario, because we actually have a blog that we're posting tomorrow. And in it, we write about this. There's a law, I think it was in New York State, they've actually passed, and they mentioned some of the statistics. This human trafficking worldwide is 10 million people. Here in the United States, it's estimated to be 1 million people. 1 million people are victims of trafficking, which is, outrageous. It's, I wouldn't have guessed that, without this, and I'm getting this from multiple data sources, so you're not the first person to say this. So, yeah, that's really head spinning. So what's your opinion overall of the legal system? I guess it's not too high, is it?
Well, from what I've seen, we have a very serious problem in our country right now. And that's, I can tell you that that's one of the reasons why I voted for Trump. Okay? We needed someone that didn't have the conflict of interest that many of the other candidates had, and who was going to appoint constitutional judges to the bench. That's one of the biggest, I mean, to me, that was number one in my list. And I can tell you that we have activist judges, and they're trying to rewrite the Constitution and basically, abusing their power. So there's somebody calls this judicial supremacies. There are judicials, and so I'm not too. I believe that we can do much better than what we're doing right now. Sorry.
and how do you feel about Judge Gorsuch? Supreme Court.
From what I've been reading, he's a constitutionalist, for sure. So I'm very hopeful that he's going to do a good job. Now, I believe that we have a great opportunity over these coming years to not only put good judges at the Supreme Court, but also in all our federal courts. And we need to do.
Yes, state courts as well. I mean, they're running rampant in every single court you can imagine.
Oh, yes. Well, I can tell you this. The judge involved in my case, basically, he's the main judge in family courts. Now, this judge doesn't even understand what is to have a child, because he cannot have a child. He's a male married to another male judge. How can you have somebody who has no idea about being a father, or and basically decide the fate of children? And so we have serious problems. I believe that we got to get involved, and I think that's why I love your book, because you provide you're opening the eyes to a lot of people, and you give solutions in your book. So that's why I love your book.
And I think that's what unites all of us here, is that we all have the common goal of trying to educate and empower and enlighten people as to what the state of the system really is, and try to inform them of ways to, deal with those problems effectively. And the best way to do that is to educate and empower people and give them the tools that they're going to need if they do find themselves involved in this, uphill battle of dealing with the legal system, whatever the issue is. But family court, for sure, is riddled with problems. And, every day, I work with a family law attorney who tells me horrible stories about judges legislating from the bench, judges ripping children from their parents, over allegations, not proven evidence and facts. And it's devastating. I mean, this is definitely a part of why human trafficking happens, and people don't realize that it happens in our backyard. It's happening all around us. It's happening in every city that each one of us lives in.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, exactly. Mario. So, I mean, based on what Sarah just said, and what you said about the corruption, before you got into all this mess and involved with the courts, would you have ever suspected in your wildest dreams that the system was the way it was, and there were as many victims of corruption, of child trafficking, of everything else, before you got involved with the court system? Because I think this is important for a lot of viewers out there that for some reason they've been immune to our system. They've never gotten a traffic ticket, never been in court. I'm sure it's rare. I mean, but there are probably people out there that may have like an unrealistic perception of the system. So what did you think about it before you got into it? Did you think it was this bad? Did you think there were this many victims?
I never thought I never thought. I really thought that we had the best judicial system in the world, and I was completely wrong. What I'm seeing today is as bad, if not worse, that what I've seen in third world countries. The
Yeah.
lack, the
Yeah.
lack of respect to the Constitution, the abuses taking place today are mind-boggling to me. And I actually have thousands and thousands of cases just like mine. And you can visit votefamily.us, and you will see we have a database of 4,500 cases.
Yeah.
Okay, and I can tell you this: there are millions, literally millions in the United States. And I can just real quick. Do you know that 63% of youth suicides are related with what's going on in our family courts today? 85% of all children exhibiting behavior disorders are related to this. 71% of all high school dropouts come from this. 75% of all adolescent patients in chemical abuse centers derive from this. 75% of all adolescent patients uh, of juveniles in state-operated institutions, 70% come from these problems.
Yeah.
So we gotta go to again, as a doctor, as a medical doctor. I believe that it's very important that we look at the root source of the problem. Don't just complain. Don't just focus on our attentions on the symptoms. And this is this is one of the greatest problems in our society today. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you this, and as I'm Hispanic, I come from the minority, and so I actually so I understand, you know, Democrats that they supposedly want to uh, fight for minorities and for blacks and all that. Sounds good, but I can tell you from my own experience, uh, back in the late '60s, early '70s, they came up with these programs, welfare programs in the Social Security, Title 4D and Title 4E. From that time, about 20% of the children in the Afro-American communities live without a father, one of the parents. Today, over 70% of these children, of Afro-American children, live without a dad. Okay, and you can see that from that time
Yeah.
to today, the increase in the poverty rate, the increase in crimes, the increase in a lot of the societal problems in our nation, it comes directly from these programs. So, but you see, if we ask our senators or legislators to change this, they don't change it because they're receiving the money to get reelected by the same people that are abusing the system. So there is a big conflict of interest, and but we gotta get the word out. If we really want to save our children, stop the child trafficking, improve this nation, we gotta do it. So I like to lead by example, not just talk about it. So that's
Yeah.
why I'm running for the Senate again. Uh, Actually, I'm considering whether to run for the Senate or for another seat. It's going to depend on certain factors, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Well,
Thank you for running. And, we need people. We need you. And we need people like you who are willing to step up to the plate and willing to challenge the existing institution and the status quo. So thank you for stepping up to the plate and being part of the solution and not being part of the problem.
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. One thing I want to add to this conversation before we wrap, and then, Sarah has anything, she can, of course, interject as well. But I notice on your website that you have polls. You have these occasional polls that you post. And one that caught my attention I think you had it a few months ago, was what political issues top your concerns? Now, you had various things in here. You had, the right to bear arms, the Second Amendment, fiscal responsibility, freedom of religion, a whole bunch of things. But I'm going to go down the list, starting from the bottom, working my way up to the top. And this is what the voters said. Now, you had several hundred people vote, maybe a few hundred, I guess. Immigration reform was on the list, environmental protection, then freedom of the press, just above that, freedom of religion, fiscal responsibility, right to bear arms, the Second Amendment, which got 29 votes, strong family parental rights came in second with 62 votes at 29%. But the overwhelming majority at 71 votes, 33%, was the corrupt legal system. So apparently people are getting tuned in that understand what you said before. It's like a third world country. And in fact, some of the data, you can go to transparency.org and you see that the United States is like, I think 16 or 19 on the list. And we've been at that point. Number one is the cleanest legal system in the world. And, number 200 is where you don't want to live. But I think personally, and I can't prove it, that we're artificially high on the list. I don't believe that we're at 16 or 19. I would say like 30 to 35 would be my guess. And there's probably political reasons behind that. But people apparently are getting tuned in. The data is pointing in the same direction as our conversation. That there is a problem with the legal system. There is a problem with the family courts. So did this data surprise you when you saw these results? Or was this like, this is what I knew right along?
Exactly. Yes. And let me clarify something.
Yeah.
Because I want to be, I want the attorneys listening to this to know that the family courts are making you look real bad. Okay. And not all attorneys, not all judges are doing what the judges in family courts are doing. So there are certain areas where the Constitution is gone. One of the worst is family courts. They don't care. For them, they are gods. They believe that they're gods, and that whatever they say is gonna be. Now, if you disagree, guess what? Appeal. It's going to cost you, at least $10,000 just to appeal here a decision. Just to go and appeal, you have a retain a lawyer for an appeal. It's $10,000. That's just the basics. So they constantly they will give these unconstitutional decisions, and you go broke trying to fight the system. Once you're broke, hey, you got to live with what you have. And many times, in the great majority of cases, your children have disappeared. Like in my case, over 4.5 years without being able to see my children freely, just because I pray with them. Okay, and I'm telling you, I'm not gonna give up. We're gonna win. So, and I thank God for the opportunity to suffer with Christ, and to show the world that God, Jesus Christ, is the answer. To me, that's really what has given me the energy, what has given me the peace to fight is Jesus Christ, and I want to give him all the glory for that.
Yeah. That's a great closing statement, Mario. I don't think I can add anything to that. We're both tuned in. We both have a new mission statement, and that's pretty much it. Sarah, is there anything that you like to add?
I just want to thank Dr. Jimenez for being here with us today, and for your very strong and powerful and genuine message. And thank you for being part of the solution again. And thank you for helping people in society through your work as a doctor and, your work in politics, because I see that politics is in your future, So thank you very much for being here with us today.
Yes, thank you very much, Mario. It's been a joy to have you on our show.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I really hope that millions, if not billions, will watch this and 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 we will inform the people, and we call the people to not just complain, get out there and fight for our children. We can do it. It's just a small number of people. We are much. The numbers are in our favor. We just need to come together, and that's why that's why I'm really glad that I met you and Sarah, and we're coming together. We're uniting.
Right.
So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Now, what's the website one more time for our viewers that they can follow up on everything you said and check out more about family law? What is your site again?
Okay, two websites. The first one is votefamily.us. So it's www.votefamily.us. The other one is votemario.us. And so thank you very much, and I really hope that we don't give up and that we continue fighting. And believe me, we already won. So this is just a matter of persevering.
Right. Okay. Right. Absolutely. Well, I'd like to say to our viewers in closing that to catch our show fresh every first Monday of the month at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, all view it any time afterward, right? Be sure to subscribe to our blog for informative monthly posts at www.stloiyf.com/blog. That's www.stloiyf.com/blog. And if you really want to protect yourself to the fullest extent possible against our wildly corrupt legal system, pick up a copy of our book, Stack the Legal Odds in Your Favor. And also, please use the link provided on this page to our partner so that you can financially support them in their cause as well. So once again, Mario, we have to thank you very much. It's been great having you on our show. And like you say, we're going in the right direction. If we unite and we have, we do have the right goals, we have the right personnel. And like Sarah, I also wish you the best of luck running for office. And if I was in Florida, you'd be getting my vote.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mario.
Take care. Have a great day. God bless you.
Thanks.
Bye.
God bless you.